Catholic Courses presents Dante's Inferno, a study on Part 1 of the Divine Comedy. Taught for you by Professor Anthony Esolen. Lecture 1, Cantos 1 through 3. Where are you going, traveler?
Welcome to Catholic Courses. I'm your professor, Dr. Anthony Esolen. In this course, we are going to be discussing the first part of Dante Alighieri's epic poem, The Divine Comedy. Over the next 8 lectures, we're going to be traveling through the Inferno, in a word, hell. Dante Alighieri is arguably the greatest poet who ever lived. He was born in Florence in 1265, in an exciting time when new religious orders, the Franciscans and the Dominicans, were flourishing throughout Europe and teaching in a new invention called the university. Great cathedrals filled with color and light rose up in towns and cities from England to Sicily. Popular culture was vibrant and bright. International trade was bustling and made many families rich, especially in Florence. Poets had embarked upon a tradition of love poetry that has lasted till our own time. Now, some years after he was exiled from Florence following a fit of political strife, Dante conceived the idea of combining all the great concerns of his time into a single poem, the Divine Comedy. He divided the poem into 3 canticles, Inferno, Purgatory, and the final canticle, Paradise, which he completed shortly before his death in 1321. Each canticle is further divided into cantos, 34 of them in Inferno, and 33 each in Purgatory and Paradise, making a full 100. The number 33 is significant because it was believed to be the age of Jesus, when he died and rose again. However, the Inferno, the realm of sin, is not worthy to bear that number. And as we'll see, the very name of Christ is never uttered in hell. It's not easy to say what the Divine Comedy is about because, in fact, it is about everything of meaning in a human life. What does one's love for a beautiful woman have to do with the love of God? What does justice demand in our relationships with one another, in our cities? What is wealth? How are we to use it? How much can we learn by the use of reason alone? And how much do we need divine revelation for? What is sin? And what does sin do to our hearts and our intellects? How does the grace of God heal us? What is the fulfillment of the human mind, the good of the intellect? What does love have to do with knowledge? Where are we going? And what is the path that leads to beatitude? Dante was the man to write this epic. Some people who don't know what they're talking about say that the Middle Ages were a time of darkness. Now, this is absurd. The age of Dante was a vigorous, brilliant, and glorious time. A man like Dante knew several modern languages as a matter of course, and he was absolutely steeped in Latin. He knew theology, philosophy, history, astronomy, music, and all the rest of what we'd call the liberal arts. And he wrote his poem not for dusty professors in their libraries. If he had had them in mind, he'd have written it in Latin. No, Dante wrote in Italian for anyone who could read. And he cast himself as the main character in his own poem. Not as a wise teacher, but as a man like us, like anyone, lost in sin. A man who needs the grace of God to lead him back to the path that leads to bliss. In other words, the Dante we meet in the poem is a great and brilliant fellow, but he's also any one of us. He is an everyman. So when we read about Dante, we read about ourselves. Now, to maximize your understanding of this lecture and all...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?